us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them.
Lord, you have been our dwelling place in every generation. Day out and day in, your love, your grace sustains every living thing. But like the grass, these creatures you've made, we grow soon to wither and fade. Then you'll say, return, oh children of men. So help us learn this lesson till then. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them. Oh, how we love this time, this place, but it's not our destination. We struggle, we strive to run this race with all of the strength we can bring. Then in what is but the blink of an eye, we finish our years like a sigh. So help us now, Lord, show us how we can redeem days that pass like a dream, and teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them. For 1,000 years in your sight is merely a watch in the night, so before they all fly away, teach us to number our days. We're given to pride, so unsatisfied, still you provide such mercy. In light of our sin, how can we begin to thank you for placing your beauty within? Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them. For 1,000 years in your sight is merely a watch in the night, so before they all fly away, teach us to number our days. Yes, before we all fly away, teach us to number our days.
Hey, all right, hey everybody. It is Monday, May the 30th, 2022, and it is Memorial Day. I know there's just a handful of us on right now, probably because it's Memorial Day, but that's what we're gonna tell ourselves, right? It's because it's Memorial Day. But it's good to see Jerry and Janet. Good afternoon, good evening, you guys, and to Richard and Ellen. Say good evening to my mom. I love you, Mama, and I'll say good evening to the Eddies, to Lauren, Mike, and David, and Levi, and Valor, and Haven, and Everett, and to Barbara Callahan, and hello to Joshua. Good afternoon to Joshua, and let's see here. Good evening to Pastor and Sister Martinez, to Kelly Kenfield, to Kelly and Melody Woods, to Kelly Shepard, to Ron and Amy, and to Sonia Takach, and to Sonia Valenzuela and Margarita. Good evening to you as well, and to Dayspring and Rachel and Jessica. Good evening to you as well. Well, we are this week, because I'm going to be going. I'm going to be at a conference for most of this week, traveling tomorrow. We're going to be doing Psalms through the week, and just returning to Psalms that we are familiar with, and looking at them again, and just being encouraged by them. And so this morning, or this afternoon, we're looking at Psalms 30 and Psalms 90. I've entitled today's Daily Manna simply a reminder to not be a prisoner of the moment. And sometimes we're so stuck in all that we can see, and that we don't have that God's eye perspective, that we get into this place where we begin to panic, that it feels like it's always going to be like this. I've given this example before. There was a movie that came out years ago called Bug's Life. It was a Pixar movie, and a leaf drops in front of this bug, and he screams, "I'm lost!" And it's that perspective, and we all laugh, right? Because we can see it's just a leaf, right? But it's massive to this bug, as it were. And so when you look at when the Lord calls us to step back, when we hit these moments of fear or panic, or we begin to lose perspective, to step back and to see that He is the Lord of all, that He is the King of the universe. So the first psalm that we're looking at is Psalm 30, which is actually, when you open it up, verse 1 says it's a song for the dedication of the temple. It's a song for Hanukkah, for the dedication of the house, dedication of the temple. And so obviously the temple had not been constructed. This is a Psalm of David. It was constructed by his son. So he prepared this song as a song of dedication for that. And it's this picture as we go through this psalm. It's a psalm that's remembering sort of this roller coaster ride, as it were. It's remembering all these difficult moments, these difficult times, these painful moments. So as you come into the Lord's house, you're remembering He's brought you through, that He's carried you through. And one of the beauty of remembering that, the beauty of, look, even when we there's the passage in Philippians, where Paul tells us, do not be anxious about anything. Well, do we find ourselves faced with anxiety? Sure, we do. So he says, don't be anxious about anything. So what do we do there when we have that anxiety? He says, but in everything, through prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. So we pray and we bring our requests to God with thanksgiving, right? With a remembrance, a recollection of all the Lord has done. That when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm afraid, when I have anxiety, when I have a need, that the starting point is to come and to rehearse the things that he's done, the things that his faithfulness in the past, to know that I've made it through difficult seasons before. You know, when you're younger, there are times where when you hit your first kinds of obstacles, difficulties, and it feels like you're never going to get through this. You know, kids sometimes and teenagers have a very limited perspective, and they become overwhelmed with grief and lose hope. But when we can step back and say, Lord, help me to see things from your perspective, that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And I've made it through difficult times before. You've brought me through it before. You've been faithful. And so I can enter your house. I can, in dedicating your house, to know that you have been faithful. And so he remembers. He remembers here, he says, it's a psalm of dedication for the temple. And he says, I will exalt you, Adonai. I'm going to exalt you because you lifted me up. You hoisted me. It's the imagery is to be drawn up. You, he says, have hoisted me, drawn me up from the depths. You have drawn me up and did not let my enemies gloat over me or rejoice over me. Verse 3, he says, Adonai, my God, I cried to you. I gave a lament to you. Elohecha, he says, it's this, like an emphatic you. I cried to you for help. You healed me. Like I cried out and you responded. Verse 4 says, Adonai, you brought my soul up from Sheol. You are it says, you are the one. You are the raising me up one. The one who lifts me up from Sheol, from the place of the dead. My soul. You brought my life, my breath from the depths. You kept me alive. You gave me life so I would not go down to the pit. So you have that in verse 2. That really picturesque word that's translated translated as you lifted me up, but it's saying you hoisted me up. You brought me out of deep waters. It's like you brought me out of a well, right? And so it's this very poetic description, because here we see I was heading down into the cistern, into the pit, but you hoisted me up. And so he continues in verse 5, sing praise to Adonai, his faithful ones, those of his chesed is the language here, of his love, his loved ones, his faith, those who are recipients of his faithfulness. It says, sing praise to him and give thanks, acknowledge, make known his, here it says his holy name, but it says vahodu lezecher chadasho, which is to give thanks, to remember, in order to remember his holiness. Give thanks so that you can remember who he is. Give thanks and acknowledgement so you can recall, so you can remember his holiness. The totality, his holiness is the beautiful totality of the perfection of his character. Who is like the Lord? He's in a category all alone. His holiness means there's nobody in his category. Who is as loving as him and as powerful as him? Who fits in either of those categories? Nobody. He alone. The Lord, gracious and compassionate, overflowing in love and truth. He is righteous and just. I'm going to remember. I remember when he brought me up from the pit. I'm going to sing praises to him. I'm going to acknowledge what he did. Remember what he did for me in the past in order to remember. I'm going to give thanks, acknowledge it, to remember his holiness, to remember there's nobody like him. Verse 6, because his anger lasts for only a moment. It comes to rest for just a moment. He acts in a moment, and it kind of crusts over it, basically, like for a moment. But his favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may stay for the night. Right? And the language here is like taking a hotel room, lodging. Weeping may lodge for the night, but joy comes in the morning. A shout of joy will come in the morning. The darkest will pass. The darkness will pass. Weeping, you may have to go through and endure a season of weeping, but joy comes in the morning. David remembers the moments where he goes, when I felt secure, and he says, and I, emphatically, va'ani, he says, va'ani, and I, when I was unconcerned, I was in my prosperity, when I was at ease. The language here has to do with in a place of complacency, of sort of self-confidence. So it translated when I felt secure, but it's that kind in my complacency, in my, self-confidence, at ease. I said, I will never stagger. I'll never be shaken. I'll never waver, ever. Verse 8, he says, Adonai, in your favor, you made my mountain stand strong. You caused me to stand strong. But when you hid your face, in the hiding of your face, or in the sheltering of, the word for your face, fanecha, it's also a picture of your presence, his presence. When you were no longer, when I didn't experience your face shining on me, when it was sheltered from me, I was terrified, right? I was terrified, or I was shaken, I was disturbed. And so David acknowledges, he says, boy, I got a place where I got a little big for my britches. I said, I'll never be shaken. I was unconcerned. I'm set. And he says, but it was you, Lord, who you made my mountain stand firm. It was you. And you see here the Lord withdraws his face, right? The crisis that David faced was not simply the result of, God missed it. God withdrew his face, his protection. When you hid your face, and the question is, why would God hide his face in this point? There's this, when my boys were little, when they would play video games. I remember Antonio he wanted to play video games, but he didn't know how to play them yet, right? So he would have an unplugged controller, and he'd be playing it, but he wasn't learning anything in doing that. As my boys got older, I came to a place where I wouldn't let them win, if we played a game or we did something, I didn't let them win. And the reason I didn't let them win isn't because I can't lose. I can lose just fine. That's not a problem. I did it for their sake. I wanted them to know that when they won, they won. I wanted them to have a clear sense of reality. I wanted them to experience at times in life a necessary adversity that could form their character. And there comes the point when the Lord sees David going, I'll never be shaken. I'll never stand firm. Or look at me. I'm unconcerned. And that the Lord doesn't want David to walk in that, because the Lord has seen what that produces. That kind of pride, that kind of arrogance. What it produces is destructive. A kind of self-sufficiency apart from God. It's destructive. And so the Lord, because of his love for David, says, I want you to actually experience the result of, to understand in the depth of your being where this comes from, where your strength comes from. So the Lord hides his face in order to reset David's heart. To go, this wasn't you. Your mountain was not strong because of you. Guard your heart. Guard in the moment of success, in the moment when everything's going well, guard your heart from that kind of pride. And so as an act of gracious correction, as an act of gracious discipline, the Lord hid his face so that David could come to a clear awareness of the reality and no longer return to that kind of arrogance. It says that now when you hid your face, now I was terrified. And the result was Verse 9, to you, Adonai, I called, and to my Lord I made my plea. I asked for chanan, for favor, for graciousness. He now recalls the prayer when God's face is hidden, saying, what profit is there? What gain is there in my blood, in my going down to the pit? See, he's recalling. Now we're getting the story that was the details more so of what was described in the opening when he said, I'm going to praise the Lord. I'm going to thank the Lord because you lifted me out of the pit. And this is what had happened. He had gotten a little big for his britches. And now the Lord hid his face, and now he's like, oh, it's not me. I need you. Okay, Lord, I called. I need you. Why? Please, what gain is there in my blood going down to the pit? Will the dust praise you? Is it going to acknowledge your truth, your faithfulness, your reliability? Shema Adonai, he says, verse 11. Hear Adonai, and I need your favor. Be gracious to me, Chaneni. Adonai, be my help. Be a help to me. Assist me. I need you. Right, so there's this clear recollection. Is that word sounds weird? But this clear awareness that he needs the Lord, and he's remembering that. And the answer, the Lord, it says, you transformed my lamenting, my mourning, into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy. You girded me, you enclosed me with joy. All right, so you removed the mourning, the funeral song, the death song over me, and now you have clothed me in rejoicing. So that, verse 13, so that my glory will sing to you, I will make music to your glory. So no longer is he walking around with that stupid self-confidence, foolish self-confidence, being like, I'll never be moved. No, there's a clarity of who made his mountain stand firm. And you did this so that my glory will sing to you, or so that I will make music to your glory and not be silent. Adonai, my God, I will praise you forever. And so you have this picture as we go through Psalm 30 of this perspective that's been clarified. That he's no longer, in the house of the Lord, there's an awareness of how much I need you, Lord. Through the ups and the downs and your faithfulness, and I need you. We come to Psalm 90, and it's the only psalm that is given the superscription of having been a psalm, a prayer of Moses, recalling this prayer of Moses. And the beauty of this being, Moses is sort of he's the premier prophet. He's the prophet that God used to bring the people out. And so what you see here is when Moses, the man of God, even it was in a place of weakness. Even the premier prophet had moments where these seasons where he had to reset his perspective, where he had to call on the Lord to reset his perspective. And Moses says, Adonai, he says, my Lord or my master, emphatically, you have been to us a dwelling place. You have been a refuge to us, a den from generation to generation. It says, my Lord, a refuge you have been to us in generations and generations. When we didn't have a refuge, when we didn't have a hiding place, you have been our refuge. When we were slaves in Egypt, Lord, it was you who were our hiding place. When we wandered in the wilderness, it was you. You were our dwelling place. And now, and so Moses now, as we stand on the cusp of what will be, you will be our refuge. This land is not our dwelling place, right? Even this promised land, it's not our dwelling place. It's you. It's always been you. When the Lord said to Moses, you know what? Go. I'm not going with you. You can go without me. You go. I'll send an angel ahead of you. And Moses says, no, if you're not going, we're not going. I don't want the land. I want you. The land apart from you, what? You are our dwelling place. Verse 2. He says, before the mountains were born, before the mountains were brought forth, before you gave birth to the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, Ata El, you are God. Before it all was, Before anything came, that like you, Lord, are not defined by the earth and by the world. Before all of that, you were already. You are God. You were before. So there's this picture of the eternal God. Before all things, he was. So the contrast of, when we talk about the beginning of the earth, the mountains, right? The mountains are ancient. The beginning of the earth feels like forever, but it's not forever. It's limited. And so and before all of that, before what we consider stable, before what we consider that never changes, there was you. You were and you will always be. There is none like you. And so then the contrast comes to verse 3. It says, you turn Enosh, you turn mankind or mortals, frail humanity. The word Enosh speaks to our humanity and its weakness. You return humanity back to dust, saying, return, children of Adam. Right? Verse 4. For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day just passing by, or like a watch in the night. It says, when it says like a day, it literally says 1,000 years in your sight are like a day, the day before yesterday, blazing past, like it's gone. And then the word he says, or like a watch in the night. A watch in the night is a watch in the night is a 3-hour window that you slept through. So that it says that's what 1,000 years are to you. It's like nothing. Before all the things that are so long, you were there, and 1,000 years to you are nothing. Like I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. I need to understand who you are. And you, the one who was, before it all was, before everything that I'm freaking out about, this king and this empire and that empire and what's going on in the immediacy of the moment. You're our dwelling place. You're our hope. You're our refuge. You are stable. You are secure. It says those things, 1,000 years in your sight are like a day just passing by, or like a watch in the night. Verse 5, you sweep them away in their sleep. In the morning, they're like sprouting grass. In the morning, it flourishes, it blossoms, and it springs up. By evening, it withers and dries up. Verse 7, for we are consumed by your anger and terrified by your wrath. So we are Enosh. We are weak, frail, mortal. We're limited, dying. We are like crushed to dust, right? But you are eternal. Our lives are like the grass, like dust. The grass, who can withstand the flaring, the hot breath that comes from your wrath? And so he says in verse 8, you have laid out like a garment. You've laid out our iniquities, our twistings before you. They're revealed to you right in front of you. Our secret sins are that which is concealed. Our secret sins are laid out in the light of your face, in the light of your presence. And again, like Isaiah is like, woe unto me, because laid out before the light of your face. Woe unto me, for I am a man of unclean lips, among a people of unclean lips. But all of it's exposed right there before you. Verse 9, it says, for all of our days have passed away under your wrath. We spent our years like a sigh. The span of our years is 70, or with strength, with might, 80. Yet at best, they are trouble and sorrow, right? And it says 70 years at best. That's all we're going to get. But in pride and in arrogance, they are trouble and sin. He goes, they are soon gone. In a hurry, they blow by and we fly away. And the word for fly away, it's like the batting of an eyelid. They're like a blink, right? They quickly blow by. It's like a blink. And so what you have here as well is this picture of the exile, prophetically looking at the 70 years in Babylon. A lifetime under your discipline, under your correction. But it's not forever. It's a blink. You who are from generation to generation, from generation to generation, you are our dwelling place. You, O Lord. So even though 70, 80 years is all we get at best, even a lifetime under your wrath, it's just a blink, right? Who knows, verse 11, who knows, who gets, who understands the power of your anger, the strength of your anger? Your fury leads to awe of you, right? Sometimes what it takes to awaken us, to recognize who God is to have to come to terms with, to have where, like in Psalm 30, where it wasn't until I was walking around going, look at my mountain, I'll never be shaken, and you hid your face and everything, I was terrified. Why does it take that? Yeah. And he says, but that's your fury, your hiding of your face, your wrath. It leads to, there's a corrective there that leads to an awe of you, to a reverence of you. So who understands your anger? No one, so teach us. He says, so teach us, verse 12, teach us to number our days. Literally says, numbering our days, yes, to know. Numbering our days, yes, to understand. Counting our days, yes, to get it. So that we may get a heart of wisdom. So we may arrive at a wise heart. Numbering our days, yes, to know, so that we may arrive at a heart of wisdom. Verse 13, relent, turn, Adonai, how long? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy or satiate, fill us in the morning with your love, with your chesed, so we may sing for joy and be glad all our days, right? Instead of all the days of our lives being toil and sin because of our pride, may we have the wisdom from knowing to live our days for you, and therefore we have rejoicing for all of those days. He says in verse 15, gladden us for as many days as you have humbled us, for as many years as we have seen misery. Let your work, let what you produce, your wonders, your doings, let them appear to your servants. Let them be perceived by your servants, and your splendor on their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us. Establish the work of our hands. Yes, it says, make firm the work of our hands. Yes, make firm the work of our hands, right? Because when I thought it was me, I was like, look, I'll never be shaken. And I realized it was you who made my mountain firm. And so at the end of here, Psalm 90, he says, I need you, Lord. The things that I do, if I want them to be of any use, to be of anything meaningful, apart from you, it's nothing. It's like a sigh. It's like the grass that's gone the next day. He says, but if you, Lord, will you establish the work of our hands? I want to close with this passage at the back end of Isaiah chapter 40. Isaiah chapter 40. There's earlier in Isaiah 40, which we'll get to when we get to Isaiah 40 in a long time. We're in Isaiah 9 right now, but there's a passage where it says, let me click over there. It's not on the screen, but you're familiar with it. It says, Isaiah 40 verse 6 says, a voice is saying, cry out. So I said, what shall I cry out? It says, all flesh is grass, and all its loveliness is like the flower of the field. That word where it's described as loveliness is the word chesed. It says all humanity, its chesed, its loveliness, its kindness, its faithfulness, it's like the grass of the field. What people have to give, it's like the grass of the field. In verse 8 says, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. I keep trusting in their chesed, in their faithfulness, in their love, but it's the word of the Lord that stands forever. And so when you get to the end of Isaiah chapter 40, talking about being where you become a prisoner of the moment, saying, God, where are you? Where are you? Have you forgotten us? You haven't paid attention. He says, do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? He sits above the circle of the earth. Its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the skies like a curtain, spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. He reduces administrators, princes, important people to nothing. He makes the judges of the earth a confusion. Scarcely are they planted, scarcely are they sown, scarcely their stem takes root in the earth when he blows on them and they wither, and a storm carries them off as stubble. Everything that you're looking to, the princes and the judges and all that, he just, they're barely take root and they're gone. Lift up your eyes on high and see, he says. Who created these things? Oh, back up, sorry. To whom will you liken me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes and see, verse 26. Who created these? The one who brings out their host by number. The one who calls them all by name. Because of his great strength and vast power, not one is missing. Look at the stars. The one who knows the stars, who calls them all by name. They all depend on him, these mighty celestial stars and beings. Verse 27. Why are you saying, O Jacob? Why? And asserting, O Israel, my way is hidden from Adonai. He's not paying any attention, and the justice due to me escapes the notice of my God. He's not paying attention. He's forgotten. Don't be a prisoner of the moment, he says. Don't you know? Have you not known? Have you not heard? Adonai is the eternal God, the creator of the ends of the earth. Before all of it was, he was, and he is, and he always will be. He does not grow tired or weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives strength to the weary. To the one without vigor, he adds might. Even youths grow tired and weary. Even the strongest young people, young men grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope, who wait for Adonai, will renew their strength. They will soar up with wings as eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So wait on the Lord. Trust in the Lord. He is your strength. He is your hope. That's where our hope comes from. That's how we keep from being a prisoner of the moment. We look to him, we call on him, we recall who he is and all that he's done. He's never stopped being faithful. He has always been who he always will be. He is faithful, and nothing can change that. So hold firm to him. Amen? All right. Well, I think, let's see, good evening to Joyce and Joe. And it's good to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. All right. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.
Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them.
Lord, you have been our dwelling place in every generation. Day out and day in, your love, your grace sustains every living thing. But like the grass, these creatures you've made, we grow soon to wither and fade. Then you'll say, return, O children of men. So help us learn this lesson till then. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them. Oh, how we love this time, this place, but it's not our destination. We struggle, we strive to run this race with all of the strength we can bring. Then in what is but the blink of an eye, we finish our years like a sigh. So help us now, Lord, show us how we can redeem days that pass like a dream, and teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them. For 1,000 years in your sight is merely a watch in the night. So before they all fly away, teach us to number our days. We're given to pride, so unsatisfied, still you provide such mercy. In light of our sin, how can we begin to thank you for placing your beauty within? Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to be glad, to rejoice in them. For 1,000 years in your sight is merely a watch in the night. So before they all fly away, teach us to number our days. Yes, before we all fly away, teach us to number our days.